The biggest issue for women in finance is that there just aren't enough of us. So it's trying to get that critical mass of women so that you can have that diverse point of view heard. Because very often there's a single woman in a meeting of men, and it's just trying to have that diverse view held. In my field, I'm involved in tax, and I think that maintaining your own personal integrity is very, very important. And when you have a diverse point of view that is not heard, you've got to decide what you're going to do. So in my personal journey, I was involved in tax when tax avoidance was very, very big. Now that wasn't consistent with my own values, so I actually left the profession and joined industry, where I could have my own values consistent with my professional expertise. So I didn't have to go along with the emperor's new clothes, where I didn't believe that the emperor had clothes. So it's finding a way of marrying your own personal values with your diverse point of view. In my experience, because we don't yet have critical mass, the most important thing is that women make themselves available to other women. So if ever women ask you for advice, you give it. That diverse point of view issue is very big for me, because groupthink does exist, and women fighting the battle on their own is very difficult. So it's important, if women come to you, that you support them. It's also very important that if you see a woman with a diverse point of view that is not being listened to, that you step in. So I think that's what I would say. Women must support other women while we build that critical mass.
No, the industry, what I've initially got into in venture capital, is actually quite performance driven, and I think that it's actually quite accepting of people who work hard and take risks. So it's not been my industry that's been a challenge, it's been very accepting. It was more when I was a young woman and I wanted to become line foreman on the shop floor, and I tried to do that in the UK, and UK industry wouldn't accept me as much because I was educated as because I was a woman. So I had to go to the Midwest in America to get that job, which I did. I basically made sure that I had gained all the experience I needed to be credible in what I wanted to do in venture capital. I'd been an operating executive, I'd done consulting, I'd worked with small businesses, I'd taken risk with my own money, you know, I'd done all of the features of being an investor. So I didn't try to wing it, I made sure I'd done it. And I then also sought support. I went and talked to everybody and anybody I could find who was more experienced, who could tell me more about how to get involved in the industry and also how to succeed in it. I think it's interpersonal networks. I mean, I think I support women by hiring competent women when I can find them, but also being available if someone needs advice or is asking for a network contact, you know, just always responding. I think there are support networks, which I am an active member of, women's support networks, that I've found invaluable. There was a group called Young Presence Organization, and I joined the women's group of that, and it was international, and that group of women gave me support and confidence to start my own business. But I went looking for it. It wasn't there. It was difficult to find, but when I found it, it was absolutely vital.
Well, one of the main challenges for me has been the importance of combining a career with a family. And I suppose the main way that I found to do that was to encourage and take up flexible working arrangements when I first had the children. They're now 24 and 27, so this was a long time ago. But when I first had children, it was very unusual for a woman engineer, especially in my company, to be off on maternity leave and want to come back on flexible working arrangements. So that really started off a whole discussion within my company of making this sort of career break arrangements more open to everybody, and now the company has a fantastic career break policy, and a lot of women go off and have their children and come back on flexible working arrangements. So for me that was a big challenge, which has been successfully overcome, I think. Well, from my point of view, I think we've done very well at attracting more people into the engineering profession and retaining them through more flexible working arrangements. But I think the key challenge now is how we encourage more women into senior positions. And so one of the things that we've been trying to push very hard in our company is a more formalised mentoring scheme where senior women and also board members can mentor some of the up-and-coming women to encourage them into senior positions, and particularly to broaden their experience and their profile within the company and within the industry so that they have opportunities. And from my point of view, I always encourage those up-and-coming women to actually take the opportunities and be bold, if you like, in taking up the opportunities and pushing for new opportunities. Well, I think there are a number of ways we can help other women. I think one is being a role model, and that may be slightly counterintuitive to some women, but I do think it's terribly important to demonstrate that a woman can have a successful career, particularly in engineering, which is traditionally a male-dominated profession. And so it's very important that we publicise our challenges, our successes, and encourage others, by that, by sharing our experience. And I still find now, actually, people being surprised that you can combine career with a family and part-time working and take responsibility. Certainly when I was working part-time, there was very much early scepticism. Could I carry on my leadership role and work part-time? Not only did I do that and demonstrated I could do that, but I was also promoted while I was working part-time. So I think being a role model is really important, and then also being a mentor, giving other women the opportunity, the exposure at senior level, introducing them to others, giving them opportunities outside of one's company as well as inside the company.
So I'm a journalist by background, so very good at finding stories and writing stories and telling stories. When I became an entrepreneur, I had to learn a completely different set of skills. So it was about finding other people to come and complement what we do and getting the right kind of people and understanding how to test who's the right kind of person that we need. So finding talent, the right kind of talent, and getting that talent on our entrepreneurial bus and then going off in the right direction. That's been the biggest challenge. I would say in terms of role models, I spend a lot of time now with other entrepreneurs. So I'm president of the Entrepreneurs Organisation in the UK, which is a group of about 60 entrepreneurs, not enough women. We have about 10% of our members are women. But I find particularly the women who are entrepreneurs are amazing role models because they have to juggle a lot of stuff. They may have to juggle a home life, children, run a business. That is not easy. So they've been extraordinary role models for me, the ones who've managed to do that. But I also think just women entrepreneurs are different from men. They have a different way of going about business. And I think in the past, some female entrepreneurs have been very scary. And there's a new breed of female entrepreneurs now who realize that they don't need to be scary to be successful. They can be very successful by being collaborative, by being great listeners, by building coalitions, by building partnerships. And I think in the next 20 years we'll see a real generation of female entrepreneurs emerging that are very powerful but also very female.
One of the biggest challenges that I've had is sort of being a trailblazer in the industry and in many ways a sort of pioneer in social media is that the whole industry is changing all the time, and actually when I started there was no Facebook, there was no Twitter, there wasn't even a YouTube. So I started an industry without really a market or many consumers actually, but so you had to sort of really work to change the industry and to sort of forge a new way of working. And I think something that I did from an early stage was build a remote workforce where everybody could work from home and just be as professional as a normal sort of corporate company, but with the ability to use sort of technology and just work in a different way. But it was a challenge to retain a really good culture in the company, and that's been one of my goals and one of my aims, and always a challenge. To overcome that kind of challenge, We invested heavily in technology, but that wasn't always easy at the beginning because it was a bootstrap company, just sort of started with literally £10,000 in a credit card. So you have to spend your money wisely. You take advice from whoever you can and try and get rid of your ego so that you can actually get other people to help you. But I think the crucial thing is actually about the way that you manage your staff. And if you manage your staff with integrity and honesty and trust, and in a very sort of collaborative way, you get the best out of your people and they will give you so much more. And that's something crucial when you literally start from nothing. You have to invest in your team and hopefully provide an environment where they feel 100% part of the success and the growth of the company. Something that I'm really passionate about is supporting other women in the industry, and not necessarily just my own industry of sort of social media and marketing, but in any industry, and particularly entrepreneurs. One thing that we do and that I'm particularly proud of is the way that we work means that because it's flexible working and because it's working from home, it immediately opens up a whole network of talent of women who potentially want to take some time off to bring up their children, for example. They don't have to leave their career. They can actually sort of carry on working from home and build up an excellent career with us, you know, and that's what's happened over the last 11 years now. But I think something that I'm really passionate about is actually helping entrepreneurs, and we started something called Evil Genius, which I named myself, and it's about allowing small companies, for example, or even just single people who just started up completely from the beginning, how they can use social media to do marketing of their own company, how they can understand the way that Pinterest works, Google Plus works, etc. We allow them to use our services for a fraction of the cost that we would charge a large brand to get them on their way. And sometimes they just need a short time with us and then they can take it on. But it feels like it's the right thing to do to support other women, to support entrepreneurs, and also to support younger people coming into the industry as well.
Well, I suppose one of the biggest challenges that I faced in running World Travel Market, as well as bringing the world of tourism together under one roof, was to try and push the agenda for a more responsible, sustainable industry. Because if we didn't protect the very product we were seeking to promote, we would be destroying our own business model. And so we embarked on a journey which was about driving the value of responsible tourism agenda, ensuring that people change their business practice. And that was challenging because at the end of the day, not everybody wanted to engage on that basis at all. And ensuring that actually travel and tourism adds value and brings benefit to the local communities that we take our travellers to. Okay, who would be my role models? Well, I have to say the nature of me has been, driven by my own background. My parents gave me my work ethic. They're doctors and nurses, so they gave me my social, ethical principles. And then I think, the inspiration I've got is by working with the range of people that I've worked with that have got huge talent, and actually what it's been about for me is about harnessing a lot of that talent to achieve something collectively together that none of us could achieve individually. So I think my inspiration comes from a lot of people, and just trying to get the best out of all of them so as that we keep going in the right direction. Well, in the travel and tourism industry, a personal network is important. It's not exclusive to women or men. Actually, it's an industry that thrives on utilising the skills of both. But I think women are often more challenged insofar that they have less confidence than men. They're looking to get better work-life balance. And so sharing experiences, challenges, giving self-belief into women that they can go through the corporate hierarchy. Where there's a will, there's a way, and just giving that personal encouragement, I think, is really important. One of the key challenges I've had is setting up a charitable organisation. It was something that I didn't immediately intend to do, but at the end of the day, it's something that actually is a real force for good. And trying to set up an organisation which is largely volunteer orientated, that changes people's lives in other destinations across the world by providing clean, safe water and proper sanitation has been one of the biggest challenges I think I've come across.
I suppose the first challenge I had was actually getting a job, because I'm deaf, and when I left university, the University Careers Office didn't know what to do with me. So they sent me off to the Ministry of Labour and a disablement resettlement officer, and it was she who suggested accountancy actually. And I found the accounting profession very receptive. I did manage to get a job and I did manage to complete my training. But the next challenge I faced was I got pregnant, and we didn't have maternity leave in those days, so I had to leave. And some years later I decided that I would go back into the profession. That itself was a challenge. I recall at the time applying to all the firms advertising in accountancy. Not one of them would even offer me an interview, even though I knew one of them had 80 vacancies for qualified accountants. So that was another challenge, going back to work and to be able to use my qualifications after having had my children. I suppose the third challenge was actually taking a few steps up the career ladder. Because I'm so deaf, I am very limited in many ways in what I can actually do. So I had to find a niche job where I could cope with the deafness and yet have a rewarding career, and I'd like to think that I've achieved that. I suppose the main challenge in my career has actually been coping with the deafness and finding the niche role which I need to have to be able to cope with that. I think I've been very fortunate in that I've been able to find a firm which was willing to employ me. But I suppose the other thing is making sure that you have the right equipment. I'd have to say the technology has come on in leaps and bounds since I first entered the profession back in 1972. We have digital hearing aids, we have much better telephone systems, we have instant messaging, we have a wider acceptance that there ought to be loop systems in buildings so that the deaf people can participate in meetings. So I suppose those are the things which really have made a big difference to my life. I think that doing what you do and being a role model in what you do and doing your job well is a great way of overcoming the prejudices. When I first became an article clerk, I was throughout that 3-year period the only woman that the clients had had as an auditor. And I remember thinking at the time, you know, it was quite interesting to do that, but also I found that out of the clients, the senior people were interested, and also their staff. Many of the men in those organisations had daughters, and they would come up to me and say, "How did you get into this job? Could my daughter do it?" So in a way, I was trailblazing at that time.
I think the biggest challenges I've faced is just really persuading people that you can do things differently and the world isn't going to fall apart. And we all are quite resistant to change, and certainly in the charitable sector. But I think once you can persuade people that doing things differently is worth it, then actually you can move mountains.
Being part of an organisation that hadn't worked with females before, so 24 years ago I joined the Royal Electrical and Mechanical Engineers, and at a time when they just didn't operate in that environment. So it was very difficult to overcome the equality differences. But now, you know, through my own work and the great work of other females in the Corps, we're able to now, you know, train with different people in different environments, and it's all about working hard to earn respect. That's how you overcome equality, and doing what everybody else does.
I'm really lucky because I work in the media industry, and actually we have tons of fantastic women who are really strong role models. So one I'll call out was Stevie Spring, who's now chairman of Children in Need, I think at the moment, but she was my first MD at Young & Rubicon, which is an advertising agency, and she just strode through the building, made me realise that it didn't matter whether you were a man or a woman, you could have really clear opinions, and she singled people out that she thought were talented from whatever age they were. So you could be a grad or you could be a very senior account director, and she recognised talent and promoted it really forcibly. And she was just fabulous to work for, and I still see her now and have really fond memories. So I'm lucky. I belong to a female network. There's an organisation called WACL, which is Women in Advertising and Communications London. It's been going for 90 years this year. I'm a member of their exec, and it's absolutely brilliant for allowing me to talk to other women in the marketing, communication, PR industries, and I find it really invaluable. We raise lots of money for charity, and we try and mentor younger women in the organisation as well, so that's brilliant. But also when I moved into my chief exec role, I formed my own network with other people who were either MDs or CEOs of media agencies, who I'd kind of known as I grew up through the industry, some men, some women, and I just said, look, how about we just get together? We get together every couple of months, and we have dinner and we have drinks and we kind of bitch a bit about the industry, but we share where we are, and I'm actually really proud of that as well, and that's my own sort of informal personal network.
The biggest challenges in my industry are that it's very male dominated still. The area that I work in has quite strong security as well, so we must employ British nationals. That challenges the diversity of the staff that we have there. It makes it difficult from a leadership point of view. We have a very similar style, and I think the biggest challenge is to dare to be different. To overcome the challenges, I was fortunate to have attended some quite good leadership courses early in my career. They helped me explore my brand as a leader, what I stood for, what was important to me, what wasn't. I think that gave me the confidence to be different in the role. Different is good, different encourages thoughts and ideas, that breeds innovation, and innovation is the mainstay for a long, enduring, successful business. I think the best thing that women can do to support other women is get out there and talk about what we've achieved, how we've done it, the challenges that entails, how to overcome it, and to get across to people that it isn't a balance between your job and your personal life and your family. You can do both.
What have been the biggest challenges as a trailblazer? For me, questioning the norms, questioning the status quo and breaking down barriers, but doing it in a way that you're not alienating either colleagues or team members, and credibility, doing it in a way which is credible. And the other part about being a trailblazer is that if you're the person who succeeds in achieving something, then you have to look at a succession plan so that it's not like a pack of cards and the whole thing will come tumbling down if you're not there. Do I use a networking organisation? Yes, I think networking organisations have always been important. When I first started out my career, I was more involved with the Chamber of Commerce Women's Group and the Association of Scottish Businesswomen. And the reason why that was so valuable was because as I made contacts at a more junior level and we progressed our careers through various different machinations of position, all reaching senior positions, it's been hugely beneficial to be able to have direct engagement, to discuss problems, to discuss situations which are relevant to all of us, but more importantly, just to have a laugh.
The biggest challenge I faced in developing my company has been the fact that I'm a nurse and a senior manager from the NHS. That's my previous experience. And the bankers have seen me as a nurse rather than as a businesswoman, and therefore getting them to agree to fund developments for a neurological care centre has been extremely difficult. It's been a long, hard road to raise funds, but now I have a very successful business. Bankers will now see me as a businesswoman.
I think that as far as women are concerned who want to go into the charity sector, very often it's because of their own personal experiences, as it was with me. Be positive, make sure that people hear you, and when they do hear you, just shout a little bit louder.
The biggest challenges have been overcoming the odd occasions, but nonetheless there have been occasions of self-doubt when you think, can I really do this? Can I really do this? So I think building that, your own confidence and believing in yourself has been probably one of the biggest challenges for me, dealing with those what if moments. I've overcome the challenges, I think, by reminding myself of the things I've done where I have succeeded. But also, increasingly, as I've become more senior, I think it's really important to have support, people who you can go to talk about that and to say, no, I'm having these doubts, and what do you think? And people who will give you that support. And that's why I think it's particularly important for women to build a network of support. Men have it, whether it's through their golf club or whatever, we need the same thing. I think that mentors are particularly important for everyone, and women in particular. And if that mentor can be a role model, someone who has experienced the same sort of issues, the same challenges, so another female to mentor, or just be a support person, that I think is really important for women, so that they can talk to someone who understands and who will listen, because quite often you don't need to be told what to do, you just need someone to listen.
I think we can help every woman achieve their goals and ambitions in a variety of ways. I would encourage everyone to find something that they are most comfortable with, whether that's role modelling, mentoring, sharing an experience, or being an ambassador. Find one thing and be good at it.
The biggest challenges I've faced are being a woman in a man's world. I think every business person has challenges to overcome, but particularly in the early years, it was a very male-dominated industry, and back in the 80s there were no women in the mining, quarrying and associated industries, so few challenges. I thought I had to overcome the challenges, because if females were to succeed in a male-dominated environment, then I was going to be the trailblazer. My determination and just sheer drive gave me some of the answers, and where I couldn't find an answer, I'd ask the guy, you know, what's stopping me from succeeding? What is it I need to do? What do our company need to do to secure your faith and give us an opportunity? So seek first to understand and then be understood. I think women need to work together more than ever these days to support one another. I think successful females are often overlooked on predominantly male-dominated boards. I know lots of very successful business people, both male and female, and I think we've an awful lot to offer each other. I think females can go out in the environment and offer assistance to schools, encouraging young girls to look at a business opportunity for the future. You know, if we can do it, they can do it. And if we go out and prove that, you know, walk in our footsteps, follow us, there is an opportunity for all of you. I think we should be encouraging these kids. After all, children are always the future of any successful nation. So I think we must look as females to do that and give something back.
The biggest problems I've had being a trailblazer in my industry is that I am the only woman, totally the only woman running at the largest company in Great Britain doing diamond drilling and soaring. So that's been my problem, because I know how to run a company, but it was the technical side of it. So I had to go out, I had to prove to everybody that I knew the technical side of it, and I did something very, very fun. I actually went to the World Diamond Drilling Competition. I won't tell you where I came, but it was the 12 best men in the whole world, and I didn't come last. So that showed them that I could do the technology. And the other thing was that I actually bought the company from my family. So once the family weren't there and they knew I was really serious about taking the company and the industry on, it was just proving that I could do it. Well, I do quite a lot of networking, and I do a lot of women networking. I really, really enjoy it. I do anything from the chambers networking, where we've been to Houses of Parliament. I go out and meet the construction networking groups. I actually sit on one of the committees. I actually then go networking with just a local women's directors club, and it's great. I mean, there's not a lot of people want diamond drilling in them, but it's great to meet other women that have got your same problems. You become good friends, you share problems, and I think women are more open. So we actually share problems, we actually pass encouragement on down to younger people, and you know that you're not the only person out there doing this. And you know, sometimes it's scary in business.
I run 11 bars in the Northwest. Our company's called Bar Limited. There's many challenges what we face and us in the industry, and many of them are with the student fees, the preloading, people drinking at home, coming out later, ambulance chasers, people on the phone trying to get people to put claims in who have slipped in your premises. Also the duty increases on drink prices, and with us being a value-led brand, it's very hard to compete with the prices which go up very regularly. My advice I'd give to women who are coming in the industry is to get yourself a good nanny, because there's long tough nights out there, to reward and recognise your people. Most of your talent is within your business. Also to know your numbers, be business savvy, be fanatical about the customers, training, standards. Also as well, have a point of difference about your business. What are you doing differently from somebody else? What the advantages of being in a women's network is to work with like-minded women, to have a great sounding board, to always have them on the other side of the phone, or meeting them once a month to talk about the problems, the issues that we all face in business.
I'm a physicist, and there are very few women in physics, so that when I started out as an undergraduate in Cambridge, I might find myself being the only woman in a practical class or something, and as I've gone up the ladder, you know, I may still be the only woman in a committee meeting, and you can feel very out of place, as it were, uncertain, and it's harder to find allies, I think, and that gets worse. I mean, committee meetings are definitely worse than a practical class in that respect. One has to get used to being alone, as it were, and find different strategies. I think one thing I've learnt is how to not go in feet first, if you like, not stand up very volubly saying I am different, but learn how to be a bit more subtle about things. And you just have to try it out in different situations, different tactics will work. Supporting women, what the right thing to do is depends at the stage you're at. So when you're setting out, you may be surrounded by a fair number of women and just have a self-help group amongst yourself. Sometimes I think it's harder for senior women to help in that case because it can look a bit patronising if you're not careful. But you need to make it clear that you're available to offer help if people want to ask for it. Now that I'm more senior, I'm doing quite a lot of stuff about changing policy, for instance, in my university, trying to get the senior leadership to think about what could be done. So it's a bit more remote, but to try and change the working environment across the board.